It just isn't worth it. This is the message the Union of BC Indian Chiefs sent out in an open letter last week when it comes to proposed First Nations investment in the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The cost of the pipeline expansion has almost quadrupled from original estimates to its current price of $21.4 billion. And Grand Chief Stewart Phillip says pipeline backers are now turning to First Nations as part of a last-ditch effort to save the project.
And so there's a desperate effort to recruit Indigenous involvement, Indigenous support, in a clumsy effort to convince the financial institutions and the pension plans that these are somehow now ethical investments. And of course, we know nothing else could be further from the truth.
Calgary-based Project Reconciliation is one of the groups trying to facilitate First Nations ownership of the pipeline. Stephen Mason says COVID-19 and catastrophic weather events have contributed to the cost overruns of Trans Mountain. But he says with the help of increased toll fees for oil companies, the project remains financially viable.
So, one, we believe that the 21.4 is still on the high side with contingency built in. And two, that the tolls will take up to absorbing up to 15 billion. So there is a delta there, but from there, then the capacity piece to the tolls escalate at 2.5% per year. So there is enough room in there that you can transact the deal.
Irregardless of profits, Phillip says the pipeline is a bad investment for First Nations for another reason. He says these communities should not be part of a project that will further contribute to serious environmental damage.
It's not who is involved in the business end of oil and gas pipelines. It's it's the garbage products that go through these pipelines that represent an enormous threat to the environment and an increase in greenhouse gas emissions and more towns burning to the ground and more flooding events.
Mason agrees that Canada needs to start thinking about a transition to a green economy, but he says the Trans Mountain Pipeline could be part of that transition.
There is no reason why that this corridor cannot be ultimately repurposed for zero carbon based fuels. And to have the Indigenous ownership of this right of way is a critical piece of the value chain. So they're buying a right of way and having a oversight to the environmental impact of this right of way. But the key piece is you're buying a utility corridor that can be repurposed.
Once completed, the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion will increase transmission from 300,000 barrels of oil per day to 890,000. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.